it's Around Town with Mandy, and do I have a fun piece for you today? So if you're in Queen Anne's County, you're familiar with the mill, Brighton Y Mills, but you may not be familiar with Mac the mouse. But it gets better. I have a friend today, Timothy Young, and we're going to talk about the new book and why Mac wasn't allowed to enter the stone and what happens behind the book when he enters. Hey, Timothy, how are you today?
Good. How are you?
Great. So thanks for coming in.
I'm happy to be here.
I have heard a lot about this book and Mac the Mouse. So tell us, how did this book get started?
So the backstory is that Mary Alice, who works at the mill as a volunteer, had this story she had written about a mouse named Mac who lived at the mill. It was a short little cute story with a couple of incidents that happened in the life of a mouse. And the folks at the mill decided they wanted to expand on that story and maybe make it into a real book. And I was introduced to them through a friend, and I met with them, and they told me about Mac's story, and I thought, it's not really the kind of thing I usually do.
Right.
I am a children's book author and illustrator. I do picture books,
As
some of
we
the ones
can
on the
see,
table.
you have plenty, yeah.
But most of my books are kind of a little off-center, a little odd, very funny books. I don't usually deal with history. But I was touring the mill. I told them, I said, let me think about it. And I walked around the mill, and there's a couple of old millstones out front. And I thought, well, what if one of these is the original millstone? And what would happen if Mac went through the hole in the millstone and found himself traveling back in time? And this story just started rolling around in my head. And I thought, oh my gosh, this is an interesting story. But it's not a picture book. It's a chapter book because it's a really long, complicated story. And so I came back to the folks at the mill and I said, you know what? I kind of had an idea.
It came to you.
And maybe I am your guy. And I told them what I was thinking. I said, look, if my publisher likes it, then they'll probably publish it for us.
Nice.
And so when I approached them, they were like, actually it was nice. My editor was like, oh my gosh, we've been waiting for you to do a chapter book.
And here it is.
And here it is.
So the cool thing about this chapter book, we were talking a little bit before we got started, before each chapter, it does have a small history lesson on the mill, which is the oldest active mill in the United States.
Right. We wanted to put a lot of history in it, but I thought, Mac is a mouse. He doesn't know history.
Right.
But Mac keeps landing in different time periods in the history of the mill. So he'll land like in 1777 during the Revolutionary War. And so those couple of paragraphs at the beginning say, well, this is what's happening. The mill became, a provider of grain and flour for the George Washington's troops. And the Eastern Shore became known as the breadbasket of the Revolution. And so that's in there, so kids will learn some actual historical facts. But each of those paragraphs ends with, but Mac, being a mouse, knew nothing of this. And then it jumps back into his story.
Into the story.
Of him interacting with other mice in the past and, long lost relatives and dealing with cats and snakes and stuff that mice would have to deal with.
On a daily encounter.
Yeah.
Very cool. And so I love that the book is local. I love that it's, history right here in our county, local. And we were talking, the book is available here at the Queen Anne's County Libraries, both, and as well as Talbot County.
Yes.
And then it's available to purchase. Makes a great gift for kids. And we were talking kids school aged.
Yeah, so, 3rd, 4th, 5th graders. Working on it, we geared the history towards the 4th grade curriculum for Maryland schools for history. So the events in it, the Civil War, all different parts of Maryland history that are mentioned in the book would be appropriate for that age group. We're kind of hoping that the schools will pick it up as a part of their curriculum.
Yeah, how cool would that be?
Yeah.
And then it's available to purchase in Chestertown as well as online. You can find it on your site.
Yeah.
But it's just such a cool thing to have a local author, a local book here put together. And from what I understand, and when you go to visit the mill, when it's operating, if you get to purchase a book there, you've signed them all.
Yeah, every time that they purchase books to sell at the mill, I go up there and sign them, and I made up a rubber stamp that says purchased at the Old Y Mill.
I love it.
So it makes it a little more special for the people who've been there. As a matter of fact, it was nice. I was at a school in Wacomico last spring, and I gave a copy to the librarian at the school. And this summer, a school group came up to the mill specifically because they became familiar with the book and wanted to check out the mill.
Check out the mill.
So that was nice.
I love it. So there you have it. If you want to learn more about Mac and the Millstone of Time, or just learn about the local mill that we have, it's one of the oldest mills that's running. Check out the Mill and Why Mills, grab yourself a book, and while you're at it, go online and check out some more of Tim's books.